this is everything you're gonna need. Some gloves, an oil filter removal tool. This one's like a wrench, 15mm socket, an oil filter. This is Napa Gold 100290. A place to catch or use oil. This one has 16 quart capacity because the amount of oil you need for this vehicle is about 9.5 to 10 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic 5W30 and a funnel, of course. Let's get to it. Got the beast up on ramps. Alright, so this is where the oil filter is, right there, and you're going to be removing these two bolts. There's one right in front of the oil filter. They're both 15mm. So what you're going to do is remove the rear one first, let that drain out, and then once it's slowing, you can plug it back up and then remove this one. So remember, do both bolts one at a time. So I just realized when I was trying to take this bolt that my socket, my wrench couldn't fit. It's too tight. So you got a couple of options. You have an open end wrench like this. It's 15mm. This will fit, of course. Okay, oil filters next. I already loosened it a little bit with this oil filter tool. It was actually not that tight. So how I did it was I put it on here, just gave it a little squeeze, and I was able to turn it. There, see it turn, and then now I can move it with my hand, remove it with my hand. So with your oil filter, the new oil filter, just dip your finger in the new oil a little bit and rub it around the sealing ring right here so you can make good contact. See that? So now I'm gonna put the bolts back on, the oil filter on, and fill up the vehicle with new oil. So this is where you add oil. It's on the right side of the vehicle, passenger side. And this is where you check the oil level. So I'm gonna fill up the car with 9 quarts, and I'm gonna make sure that it ends up right in those cross hatches right over there. Let me see if I can. So I want to make sure it oil level is right in this, or right around the center there when you fill it up. So 9.5 quarts. Okay, so when you're done changing the oil, now you need to reset the oil life in the vehicle itself, in the computer system. So start the vehicle up. You're gonna scroll through the menu, left, and then to information up there. Scroll down. Right there it says oil life. To the right. So pick oil life and then scroll to the right, and right there reset, and there it is, reset back to 100%. Bring the car up to operating temperature about 5-10 minutes, and then recheck the oil to see if you need to add more. Okay, next oil change is the Fiat 500L. So I got it up on ramps, and if you don't have some ramps, some race ramps, you need to get some, because it's very easy to put a car on and very safe. So I'm gonna go under, get where the oil pan is. It's right there on the bottom. You don't have to take off anything on the bottom here. No shield or anything like that. Drain the oil. The difficult part in this, changing the oil and oil filter, is the oil filter, because it's all the way down here and you probably can't see that. But let me drain the oil first, and then I'll get to this part. Alright, this is what you need. You need about 4 quarts of 5W40 oil. Oil pan to catch the used oil. Funnel, of course. 13mm bolt. 13mm bolt. 13mm open wrench. I actually brought this breaker bar too, because they tightened that thing too tight. I don't even know why. So a breaker bar might be useful if it's really tight. And this is the oil filter, which is actually an oil cartridge. Right here, that's what it looks like. It's little tabs on the bottom. And there's an O-ring on the inside there. You can see that. You're going to replace the O-ring. This is a Napa 27341 Pro Select. Now, to remove the cartridge, you're going to need a 27mm socket. So I'm going to show you how to remove and replace the oil filter cartridge in a Fiat 500L. This is the easiest way. Normally what people do is they remove this whole air intake tube by cutting these straps, removing the hoses to gain access underneath to the oil filter cartridge. I don't know why they designed it like this, but go figure, it's an Italian car, right? So the easiest way is first drain the oil from your car completely. Then go to the air filter housing and remove the 3 8mm bolts and the hoses attached to these intakes, and lift it up like the way I have it here, so you can give you some access to the oil filter cartridge from underneath. So go underneath the car, and with a 27mm socket and a universal joint, place it by feeling around for the oil filter cartridge from underneath like this. Put the socket on top of the oil filter cartridge, then your universal joint on top of that. Go back on top of the car, and with a 12-inch extension or a foot-long extension, find the universal joint, put it on top, get a ratchet, and then you can loosen it. And once you get it loose, go back underneath the car and take it out completely. This is the easiest way to remove and replace the oil filter cartridge in a Fiat 500L, because otherwise you're going to have to take this whole thing out, cut these straps, and once you cut them, you're going to have to replace them. So that's the way I did it, and follow this method and you should have no problems. So you're going to remove and then replace the O-ring. Just get like a butter knife or something, slip it under the O-ring, like that, and then you can remove it. Now with the new O-ring, just dip it in some oil and then run your fingers around it like so, and then put the new O-ring in, which is on this area right here, this ring. And then they have some tabs. This goes on to the cartridge holder. There, see? It's just snapped on. There you go. Now it's ready to go. Just install it from the bottom of the vehicle and then tighten it by hand, and then the same way you took it out, put the extension on, the socket, then the ratchet, and then tighten it. And then you can fill with oil. Fill it with 4 quarts. 5W40. So the dipstick is right over here. It's right in there. So I'm gonna fill it with about 3.5 quarts. Get it to operating temperature, and then check the oil. And if you need more, just add more. And now we're gonna do the 2014 Rangerover Evoque. First you have to move the bottom engine cover, and that's held with 7 10mm bolts. And once you take that out, then you're gonna take out the drain plug, and that's a 15 millimeter. And I'm going to show you something about the oil filter. So towards the front is the oil filter, and this hose is kind of blocking the way. All you gotta do is just kind of move it up, push it over, and there you can access the oil filter from the top right there. Just turn this. I had to use the oil filter wrench to loosen it, but it wasn't too bad. And this is the oil filter I'm gonna be using. It's Pro Select from Napa, 21348. And it's a regular oil filter, not the cartridge like the Fiat, so thank goodness. So now I got it down to a drip. This is where this is the area where you remove the drain plug, right over here. Let me see if I can get out of the shadow here. Right up here. See that right there? So this Evoque takes about 6 quarts, 5W30, and right next to it, the little yellow handle, that's where you check the oil. Alright, thanks for watching.